Good afternoon and live from Texas, this is the Will Cain Show. President Trump today announcing help is on the way for the heartland.
The United States will be taking a small portion of the hundreds of billions of dollars we receive in tariffs. We are making a lot of money from countries that took advantage of us for years. We love our farmers, and as you know, the farmers like me, because based on voting trends, you could call it voting trends or anything else, but they're great people. They're the backbone of our country. So we're going to use that money to provide $12 billion in economic assistance to American farmers.
It's being hailed as a boost to farmers who've been hit by hard prices, heavy prices, low crop prices combined with higher tariffs. And it's now being, at least by some farmers, described as a Christmas miracle.
The other day I was reading my little boy a story at night, putting him to bed, and he said, "Daddy, I don't want Santa Claus to come to our house for Christmas. I want President Trump." and I think, Mr. Trump, I think you brought Christmas to farmers. With this bridge payment, we'll be able to farm another year, help us get by.
This just another step in the Trump administration's efforts to focus on the economy, to focus on affordability.
We inherited a mess, affordability, but you can call it affordability or anything you want, but the Democrats caused the affordability problem, and we're the ones that are fixing it. So it's a very simple statement. They caused it, we're fixing it.
Bigger, perhaps, than even the state of the economy is the state of immigration in the United States. What could be called the fifth wave in the history of America of mass migration. Today, our country must reconcile. Tomorrow, we will reconcile with the fifth wave of major migration. The last 4 years under Joe Biden. We have to keep talking about this because this is something that America will be dealing with for decades, perhaps for the next 50 years. We will pay the price in education, in culture, and welfare, and as a people. We know that, and here's a great example. Today, a twice-deported Honduran homeless illegal immigrant was denied bond during a first appearance on court. He allegedly stabbed a passenger on the Chicago light rail. That happened on Friday. It's the same light rail, by the way, where Ukrainian refugee Irina Zarutska was stabbed to death just months ago by a suspected career criminal. This man, Oscar Gerardo Solorzano Garcia, was deported by the Trump administration in 2018. In 2021, he waltzed right back in under Joe Biden, only, though, to be deported. It's unclear when and where he re-entered this country, but his prior history with the law is as clear as day. He's got a conviction for robbery, an arrest for aggravated battery, resisting arrest, false ID, and after Friday, his rap sheet now includes attempted first-degree murder, assault with a deadly weapon, concealed weapon, breaking and entering a motor vehicle, and being drunk, intoxicated, and disruptive. This incident is just the latest in a sheer magnitude of prices that we must pay because of this fifth wave of migration. Look, over the past 4 years, 10.8 million people were encountered at the border. That's according to the government. 1.8 million, again, according to the government, got away. Those are the ones we got in touch with, that we made contact with. But how many we didn't make contact with? You know, and that's even scary when you consider that we made contact with 1,900 people on the terror watch list. Again, who slipped through in the dead of night? Who's not reflected in those stats? You see, those stats, even as they are so overwhelming that now it's even having to be recognized by the New York Times. From yesterday, here's the headline: How Biden Ignored Warnings and Lost Americans' Faith in Immigration. The Democrat president and his top advisors rejected recommendations that could have eased the border crisis that helped return Donald Trump to the White House. Quote, first, they underestimated the scale of migration that was coming. Second, they failed to appreciate the reaction, the political reaction, believing that stronger enforcement would alienate Latinos and progressives, and also that a border surge would not be an important issue to most voters. That's how well they knew the concerns of Americans, that it wouldn't be a big deal to totally change the face of America, perhaps a fifth time. More on that in just a moment. But The insult to injury is the Biden administration gaslights, it's a modern-day youthful term to say lies, about what actually went down. The Times goes on to write, when it became clear Congress wouldn't act, Biden took decisive action of his own. What action was that? Do you know? I don't know. I thought it was Joe Biden telling us that he didn't have the power to act, that Congress wouldn't help him act. Give me the power, said Joe Biden.
Have you made a final decision on taking executive order in terms of what you want to do at the border? That includes the power to shut down the border, as it was suggested.
Well, it suggested that. We're examining whether or not I have that power. I would have that power under the legislation.
I thought he did everything that he could. He took decisive action, but now we hear he didn't have that power. In the 1800s, America welcomed in people from Europe, a lot of them, from places like Ireland. In the late 1800s and early 1900s, we welcomed in people from Europe, Italians, Jews. In 1965, the Immigration Nationality Act totally changed the face of immigration in America. Then we welcomed in a wave from Latin America, and it wasn't a small wave. It was massive, and it simply hasn't stopped. But every step of the way until 1965, we talked about it, we debated, we voted, we had conversations about what we thought it should look like, America. No more. Did you vote for any of this? Did you vote for what you see in Charlotte? Did you vote for this? Because this is something that we'll be dealing with for half a century to come. Our children, our grandchildren will look back on this moment and say, what happened? And who wanted this to happen? Let me show you what I'm talking about. When you're talking about 50 million illegal immigrants or migrants in this country, legal or illegal, you're talking about a massive change to your country, and it weighs on every aspect of our lives. Let's just take a couple together. How about schools? When you have this many people come in, and under Joe Biden in the last 4 years, millions and millions of this time, clearly illegal immigrants, what happens? How about 500,000? School-age migrant children arriving since 2022. 34,000 enrolled in New York City alone. What does that do? Well, it increases demand for ESL and bilingual education. It distracts from the services when you have interpreters or teachers that are distracted that would go to otherwise tax-paying American children. And this is just the migrant children. What about the children who are dreamers, who are then American citizens, that are the children of illegal immigrants? Further burdening our education system, further depressing our test scores, further dragging attention and resources away from the American student. And that's just education. Let's take a look at the welfare state. What are illegal immigrants? What do all of these millions and tens of millions of people do to our welfare system? Well, we know the answer. We've showed you this. We showed you this starting in October. How about welfare? Whether or not it's any welfare, cash, food, Medicaid, housing. There you go. All different forms of welfare. Orange represents households headed by an illegal immigrant. Look at this. 59, 18, 48. 39% of households headed by illegal immigrants taking those welfare programs. And I mentioned the numbers. It's staggering. Foreign-born population in the United States right now is the highest since 1890. I brought up the fifth wave of migration. I think it's important to put this into historical context. The highest percentage since 1890, 53 million people. That's almost 16% of this population not born in the United States. 8.3 million foreign-born population up under Joe Biden. It's no wonder the Trump administration is trying to take such swift action.
Over 500,000 children were smuggled in this country under Joe Biden. They released them to unvetted sponsors. They lost track of 300,000. There's over 62,000 children found by the Trump administration. Children that weren't even being looked for.
You know, it's interesting. I ask you, who voted for this? Who voted for this shift in your culture? Who debated it? Where on Congress did they go and take a vote about how we would change America, starting in 1965, but accelerating under Joe Biden? The answer is no one. But we did vote on our immigration laws. We did vote to enforce the law. That reflects the will of the American people, but not the Democrat Party. Want to know how the Democrat Party feels about your wishes, about the future of America? Well, socialist-elect Mayor of New York City, Zohran Mamdani, this is what he has to say about the enforcement of law, about immigration, about ICE.
We can all stand up to ICE if you know your rights. ICE cannot enter into private spaces like your home, school, or a private area of your workplace without a judicial warrant signed by a judge. You have the right to say, I do not consent to entry, and the right to keep your door closed. ICE is legally allowed to lie to you, but you have the right to remain silent. New Yorkers have a constitutional right to protest, and when I'm mayor, we will protect that right.
Hey, it's Will Cain. Click here to subscribe to the Fox News channel on YouTube. It's the best way to get our latest interviews and highlights. And click to subscribe to the Will Cain podcast for full episodes right now.